You can charge anything you want as long as you're delivering that in value or more. And I think as coaches, because we're not a heavily regulated industry, there are a lot of people who go, oh, I listen well, I'll be a coach. The question is what value are we bringing in and how are we delivering that to our clients and how are we helping them grow and just nurturing them, because that's what it's about. And then knowing that if you're doing that and doing it well, you deserve to be paid for your value. So don't undervalue yourself, but don't underdeliver on what your client's paying for.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. Before Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7 and 8 figure career coaching businesses myself and consulted with 2 career coaching businesses that are now doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or just building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Rajan, and today's guest is Lindsay Davis. She's an award-winning certified business coach, profit acceleration expert, and founder of Great Coaching. With over 20 years of experience in corporate leadership and small business ownership, Lindsay brings a unique blend of strategic insight, risk management expertise, and practical solutions that help entrepreneurs and business leaders achieve sustainable growth. At Great Coaching, Lindsay partners with clients to streamline operations, develop high-impact business strategies, and build strong company cultures, all while preventing burnout and protecting what matters most during the times of rapid scale. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Lindsay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure for us, Lindsay. So I'd like to know, how did this all get started? So what inspired you to become a coach and then start your own business coaching business?
Oh, so those are two different things. I left sort of corporate world and was on my own, opening my own businesses and doing a bit of trial and error. I think, as most entrepreneurs know, you have to fail a few. And I'd been working in the wellness industry. I was with Dermalogica Skincare for a while. And then I'd left that and opened up my own consulting business, left that when I was asked to join Chanel in South Africa. And there's some good stories about that, but lessons learned. But I left Chanel and was looking for where I would really fit next. And I wound up accidentally working with one of Africa's largest for-profit business accelerators. And I joined them as a sales coach, went through their coaching program. They had a wonderful internationally certified coaching program that I joined and went through and became a coach and started working with entrepreneurs to help them grow their businesses and accelerate it that way. And so it was a happy accident, but it was really the place that I fit because I love building and scaling businesses and I love helping people. And so I stayed there for many years until I left South Africa and moved to Colorado in the US. And when we got to Colorado, I decided that I wanted to continue this work. And so that is where I opened Great Coaching. That's where it was born from.
And it's been about 6 years and a half right now with Great Coaching, right?
Correct. But I've been working with entrepreneurs for well over a decade as a coach. So.
Interesting. Amazing. So throughout this experience, which part of the coaching journey would you say that you find most rewarding since you started the business?
Yeah. So that for me is easy. It is watching the end results come as your clients grow and scale. I mean, I was chatting to a client the other day, and he had 2 years before we started working together of being a minimum of $25,000 in the hole. And as of the end of April, he has filled this year's hole, and he was $63 in the profit for the year. So while that is tiny and $63 is not going to make or break the bank, considering he's coming out of a $50,000 shortfall over 2 years, that's a big deal. Watching clients, when I was still with the accelerator in South Africa, I mean, we worked on an entrepreneurial program in the most rural parts of the Serengeti. And within the space of 12 months, we put 95 people through entrepreneurial training, like micro training programs. And to just see that and have a woman come up to me and say, I went through this program and I started my little farm and my little farm stall business, and I was able to pay all my grandkids' school fees for the year. Like that's why I did.
Awesome. And since you mentioned this example, I wanted to dig deeper into the types of businesses, or let's say, who do you work with and what the transformation looks like for these business owners?
Sure. So I work with an incredibly diverse group of business owners. I mean, I've got one of my oldest clients is in the diamond industry. So he polishes and manufactures diamonds. In South Africa, I've got clients who are in the sporting industry, clients who are in sort of child PE and child programming, autism and neurodivergent spaces, all the way to, in my leadership roles, I have clients who sit in some of the sort of the big five firms like the PwCs, the KPMGs. That's more on a leadership scale. And it's less about the industry and it's more about the person. It is somebody who is very definitely a go-getter. I am not the person who's going to come in. That's why I'm no longer a consultant. I'm not the person who's going to come in and do it for you. We're going to work together, but it's somebody who is really outcome driven, action driven, who wants to come in. So we'll set a baseline. And I think many coaches do this, like, what do you want? But then we look at where you want to be, and we will, every time we work together, we are going to move you forward. And it's not a slow pace. I like very fast paced people who like, I don't want to be like this anymore. So.
And so you're focused on different areas of their business, right? So when it comes to marketing, sales, delivery, all of it.
All of it, mostly. My key focus would generally be sales and strategy. That's a lot of my background. All of it sort of falls under strategy. I mean, you come from marketing, I come from sales, so you can't really have one without the other. There's always that, like, who made the money for the business? Was it marketing or sales? Who went out to go get it? But it's really around like what is the best strategy for this business in order to achieve its goals, and then how do we get behind that from each of the various angles. And I'm not a marketing expert by any means, but who do we plug you into? Who do you need to know in order for this to happen? Because while tiny baby CEOs are everything, they're sales, marketing, finance, all of that, you cannot run your business like that without the supports that you need. So it really is about finding the right supports as well, whether that's employing staff or just getting a fractional CFO in, or any of those pieces.
And not a lot of people talk about that, but that can be very powerful. Just letting someone know that you can work with this person or you can work with this person and get that to be delegated, and just like finding the right people especially makes a difference in this, not having to do everything yourself. It's just not scalable, let's say, if you do everything yourself.
It is not. And often I'll come across entrepreneurs that I work with who have become entrepreneurs because they've had really bad experiences. And this is where some of the leadership coaching comes in, is that they worked for a terrible boss, so they left. Or their boss was great, but they never had the chance to work in a leadership role. So not understanding how that position works is one side that we look at. And the other piece we look at is an entrepreneur is often highly protective of their business, which many of them refer, this is my baby, I've built this, it's mine. And it's like, okay, but you can let somebody else handle some of it. It will be safe, and just sort of getting you to a point where you're comfortable delegating. I've got one or two clients like that right now where I know we could grow this business faster.
And is there a specific program that you have within your coaching business, or it all kind of like is flexible depending on the person you're working with?
So everything should be flexible because no two businesses are the same. I think there's a core sort of fundamental of what we do around baselining the business and the tools that I'll bring in. But you may or may not need every tool that comes into the business. So it's not like, here's your binder, plug and play, and that'll get you going. Some areas that I do use a specific model is through like strategy workshops for larger organizations, where we'll go in and run a 3-day strategy session. And then from there, there's quarterly strategy sessions that come out of it. So that is one piece that I do run pretty religiously with them. Even then, though, it's not done without consultation. I'm not just going to show up on the day. There's at least sort of 5 or 6 meetings ahead of schedule to make sure that we're working together to really build out the right things. And then I run a workshop called The Art of Getting the Right Shit Done, which also then has some solid backups to it. So that's, again, more prescriptive, but it is around, that's a workshop. So it's around like learning this exact formula to unlock your life. And instead of just spending your time saying, I'm so busy, you're actually getting to what's important.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to marketing, I want to talk about marketing because my background is marketing. So where do you find your clients and what marketing channel is working for you right now?
I'm fortunate because I've been around for a while, and because coming out of South Africa when I first moved to America, it was a little daunting because this was before COVID, so everybody had to have face to face and in person. But coming from South Africa, I've still got a decent client base there, and the bulk of my clients honestly come from referrals, and that's been really fortunate. I think that's just a byproduct of how long I've been in business for. Before then, I mean, I had my South African client base, but it was a lot of work. It was a lot of posting on LinkedIn, posting on Instagram, which I'm not a huge fan of social media, but it was sort of, you had to post. I set up a Facebook group for female entrepreneurs to grow marketing through that way. I joined a bunch of networking events. I'm now part of a chamber. So the chamber comes through with lovely referrals from time to time. And then I have a phenomenal client who he goes out, and he's a fellow coach. I helped him unlock his coaching business a few years ago, but he goes out and sells my coaching programs and then phones me and says, do you have time to do it? Which is great. Like the strategy sessions, he'll phone and be like, hey, so I've just sold this to this company and I'm selling this to this company, and your workshop, the art of getting the right shit done. Great. So I somehow have, and I'm very appreciative of it, but he loves it. He loves to go out and sort of sell and promote and market, and he uses it to bulk up his offering.
Mm-hmm.
So while it's I don't know many people who do that, but it's some form of a sort of almost like a JV or a partnership model that gets business out there.
Or is it kind of like an affiliate or no? Wouldn't call it affiliate.
No, we've been working together, and he's like, I sold it.
Ah, that is so interesting.
He puts it in proposals, and I'm like, okay. So yeah.
That is a fortunate type of partnerships. I really like that. I want to talk about how does great coaching look like in the next 1 to 3 years? What goals are you working towards with your business right now?
Sure. So my goals right now, and when I set up Great Coaching, I was pretty strict on boundaries. I have a daughter who's 9 at the moment. So at that point, she was 3 and in preschool, and I really built my business around that. So ideally working 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. Some days it's different, but I'm pretty strict on those timelines. As she's growing up and getting older, I definitely have the capacity to take on more. So I think one of my goals is to actually look at what that unlocks. What does more look like an unlock, while still maintaining boundaries that keep my life balanced the way I want it to be. Another goal that I'm working on is, how do I bring tangible value, not just bottom line, to my clients? So we've baselined in. When you came to me, we were sitting with this and this and this, and not having to sort of, let's reflect back and think about the things we've done, but really like, okay, so we didn't have, here it is. You didn't have, here it is. You didn't have, here it is. And what are the tangible pieces that my clients walk away with afterwards, instead of just the ability to manage their strategy for themselves. And I'm also working at looking at bringing in some form of AI support to just further unlock capacity for myself. And if it works for me, then what is that for my clients? So is it something that I develop? Is it something that I find? But how do I, like we said, you can't be everything all the time. How do I unlock that capacity earlier and for less of a financial investment, so that the smaller startups can get to it, can access it without the risk?
So basically trying to find ways on how you could incorporate AI within their businesses to help them grow their businesses as a business coach. That's an interesting. So you're either thinking about this, either having your own kind of like product, or finding a way where you can build it from what's already existing.
Correct. So maybe it's one or two existing pieces, and what's the combination of that? Or having something built, but I will always guinea pig it on my own businesses first. Because if it can unlock for me, I do run a very lean ship. I have a fractional accountant. I have just a few pieces, but outside of those pieces that I outsource to, Great Coaching stands on me. So for me to be able to say the same thing to my clients is like, how are you going to grow this business? Well, here are the tools that I use that work.
And currently, so you said you have your own accountant and you do the coaching and the sales and the marketing yourself?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in sales and marketing. I do have, which I'm not doing much, like I said, I don't do much in the way of marketing and social media right now, but I do have a social media person that I use who can dip in and dip out for that, and who I used to have somebody who'd write newsletters for me. That's become an AI feature now, which makes life a little bit easier. But it's a really lean business. So how do I grow it and practice what I preach to my clients?
Interesting. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And when it comes to investments, I'd like to know from your perspective, because by the way, I haven't had a business coach on the podcast before, so I'm really excited about this. So when it comes to investments, what have been some investments that you've made in your coaching business that you feel like they have actually made an impact in the business growing? Could be any masterminds, coaching programs, communities, whatever it is that you've invested money on that you feel like, oh, that was worth it.
Sure. I'll tell you what was worth it, and I'll tell you what wasn't worth it, because I've spent money on both.
Mm-hmm.
So I currently work with a product that is so worth it for my clients. It looks at your current business and then tweaking a number of just minor things that the bulk would fall under marketing, but not all of them. But by making minor changes to your business, how can we double your turnover and triple your profits? So that's a product that I work with now. And just as an example, my one client, we took a look, we did a business assessment on what he was doing. And by changing his invoicing platform, we dropped an extra $30,000 to his bottom line immediately in one day, because his current platform wasn't allowing him to pass the credit card charge to his client.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went back to a platform that he quotes on that he wasn't using to run his invoicing. And that does allow the charges to be passed on. So it's $30,000 that dropped straight to his bottom line in one day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's things like that. And that's, you asked me at the beginning, like, what do I love about this? That's the sort of thing where it was like, okay, let's do this. And all of a sudden, I don't think there's a single person who would say no to having an extra $30,000
Yeah.
with minimal work. So that's one thing that product is working well. I am a firm believer that never trust a coach who doesn't have a coach. Because if I'm not willing to invest in coaching, what does that say about my belief behind what I do? So at any given time, I have at least one coach that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, it's two. I have one, and because I run my business and my life very separately, I have one around the lifestyle piece and one around the business piece. But they do, depending on what's happening, they'll merge over. And I think the biggest value that my one coach gave me is a question that says, is this going to get me more of what I want? And that's a great way to hold boundaries and make decisions about business and all of that. So that's been really valuable. I invested in a mastermind group, which was the poorest investment. And unfortunately, I couldn't get out of it. So for 12 months, I was stuck paying way too much money for something that wasn't bringing value. It was, and maybe that was just the setup of the group, but I didn't find it valuable to me. I think I do better with group coaching and less with like an online course, which was how the bulk of the support came through there. Like I say, I get clients from the chamber that I belong to, so the community that you're in. And then the other place that like really grows my business is my kids' sporting events. Because you just, when they're training and they're practicing, you're sitting on the side of, she swims, you sit on the side of the pool, and you have 2 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week to talk to the people around you. So, yeah.
And oftentimes they have their own businesses.
They do. And actually what I do is now I sponsor. So that would be some form of marketing and branding, is I do sponsor the teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that's banners, logos, T-shirts. It's all out there. And then people are like, oh, that's you. Yes, that's me. And then we'll have a conversation about it.
Interesting. That is a very smart indirect marketing method. Might have not been intentional, but it still works, right? So yeah, interesting. Well, what would you say right now with your coaching business is a challenge that you're trying to solve for next within the short term?
Okay, so like I said, one challenge that I'm trying to solve for is how do I automate more things to make it easier?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other is, and I'm sure many of the coaches that you talk to are about to hit the same thing, is that it's easy to keep your existing clients, but it's very difficult to bring on new clients when we're in a volatile market.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very aware of that. So that's something that's running in the back of my head, is because people are really prioritizing where their dollars go at the moment.
Yeah, it is. It is a difficult time in the world overall. So definitely a challenge. Marketing has become like more expensive given what's going on. So yeah, I feel like that is a challenge for a lot of coaches. And when you say automation, you mean automation for yourself and for your clients, right?
Correct. So whatever I do for myself, I want to make available to my clients always. That it has to work for me. And if it works for me, why shouldn't they be using it? Unless they have something different. And if they've got something different and better, why am I not using it? If it would work better in my organization. So, and that I learn a lot from my clients. At least 20% of the notes I take during session are notes for me. Like when they come with a great idea. And I love that piece as a client will mention, oh, I'm just doing that's a fantastic idea. I need to look at that. So yeah. So I would love to find ways that I could help them unlock business faster, more easily, and at a better price, because just all of those pieces often hold people back from taking the next step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting as much of that admin work out of their hands so they can focus on things that actually have value. That makes a lot of sense. So this has been great so far. Is there any final advice you'd like to give to other coaches, maybe business coaches who are looking to further scale their impact? Because the impact that you make is huge. Like you're working with business owners, they have their own company, they have their own team, you're impacting their team's life, their families. So it's quite a big impact.
But yeah, I think, and I mean, this is just a bit of advice that I give to most of my clients and a lot of the coaches that I work with, is that you can charge anything you want as long as you're delivering that in value or more. And I think as coaches, because we're not a heavily regulated industry, there are a lot of people who go, oh, I listen well, I'll be a coach. The question is what value are we bringing in, and how are we delivering that to our clients, and how are we helping them grow and just nurturing them, because that's what it's about. And then knowing that if you're doing that and doing it well, you deserve to be paid for your value. So don't undervalue yourself, but don't underdeliver on what your client's paying for.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lindsay. It's been lovely having you on the podcast. For anyone who wants to find you or reach out to you, they can go into your LinkedIn, Lindsay, in brackets, Shirley Davis. They'll be able to find your LinkedIn account. Is there a website also for Gray Coaching?
There is. It's graycoaching.net, and that's gray with an A, not an E.
Okay, graycoaching.net. We'll make sure to also have that in our description. So for anyone who wants to reach out, they can reach out to you. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. To learn more about Purple Circle, our community, and how we can help you grow your business, visit joinpurplecircle.com.